advertise. And Mr. Dixon.
Yes. Good evening, board members. This policy is a new policy. 9.40, advertisers permitted to advertise. It was discussed by the Policy and Forms Committee in January and presented at the February 24th school board workshop. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any. Do you have any?
Let me just go ahead and open it up to the public. If there's anyone wishing to come forward and speak on policy 9.40, advertisers permitted to advertise. Anyone wishing to come forward to speak on policy 9.40, advertisers permitted to advertise. Last call. You can answer any questions, or board members if you have any questions. If not, then I just need a oh, sorry.
No, I have trouble with this policy, as you know, but I wanted to go to page 4 of 5, number 12, and we talked about this before with you're on a page, you're looking at an advertisement, and it redirects the viewer to another advertisement, and in that advertisement you're redirected to, it may include alcohol promotion or something, and this policy says that that's, you don't hold that against them. In other words, it can happen, you can't control it. I think you personally can. I think it should not occur. You should not be directed. I think you can research the technology of today to stop that.
And Mr. Dixon and I met today about this policy, and we're going to get Mr. Dixon, myself, and a few others, and we're going to draw up some guidelines for purposes like that so that we share this with principals and directors about advertisements on our web and different things like that, that there'll be guidelines, because we're going to hold them accountable the same way we would if it was just a beer commercial. Okay, even if it redirects it.
And Ms. Powers, that's designed so like if you click on like the Applebee's and it takes you to Applebee's or Chili's or something like that. I mean, they obviously, as part of their establishment, serve, alcohol, but it should not take you to a bar.
Right, there's a picture of alcohol being served at Applebee's.
Correct.
Correct.
I mean, that's what it's designed for. It's designed so that you don't put up something and when you click it, it goes to something else that is prohibited by the rest of the policy. But, if it goes to Olive Garden, and Olive Garden can, advertise probably on the front, and if they click and it goes and it says to their other page, then that's probably fine.
Just so anything that we do, it's not allowed that
Correct.
goes to an advertisement for the
But you
sale.
don't want someone to do that where it's Olive Garden, and then when you click on it, it goes to, the ABC liquor store, so.
Well, then that person can be asked not to advertise on
It'll
the
be
site.
removed. So.
Considering at this stage, we don't know what the cost of the ads will be, or email filters, or the guidelines, or anything of that nature, is there any way we could just submit this for further review instead of passing it now? I just am, I'm kind of leaning like Ms. Powers, just, I would like to have it a little tighter so that I know what we're approving. And back to my original concern of the emails, we have such a nice locked-in audience with our email system. When you or whoever is responsible for disseminating information, so many times I see that as an avenue for revenue. So if we could look at that as well.
Well, my understanding is that there's two separate issues.
It is.
One is dissemination of information to our staff for community events and special offers to staff and that sort of thing. And the reason this policy is being created is because of advertising on the internet. Primarily, they want to put ads on the high school websites to sell products. And
It is too
we don't have a policy to deal with that. So that's basically what this is geared towards.
Okay.
And they're really two separate issues. One is
They are.
Mr. Bradshaw, can you just explain to this board too what advertising policy we have that protects us right now?
We don't have an advertising policy.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw.
We don't allow advertisements, that's good to
No,
know.
we do.
Advertisements.
You're-
We allow all kinds of advertising without a policy right now. We have
If you're
them,
talking about like a football field, yes, I know, but we don't have any on our website.
they do?
Well, I've not seen any.
We don't have
They
it on
do.
the district website, but we do have them on the school websites, I get
Yeah.
it.
I'll have to check that, but the district side, I've not seen one.
Yeah, but I know the schools do because they'll have ones that point towards buying shirts or buying rings or other things of that nature. So that's what concerns me. We have been operating without a policy. And as we've had in, recent incidences, we could not do anything and take action because we had no policy to take action.
And I think that, I agree, I think it's better to have a policy if we need to review this on an annual basis, I hope we will. We
Right.
will, and as technology changes, there's gonna be all kinds of changes. I'd rather have a policy that's right.
Yeah. And I agree, it's not gonna always be perfect, but we can, and I think Mr. Dodd's correct, we should continue to keep it on our radar and review this. And, we know when we did the technology policy, by the time we passed it, we were having to make changes to it, because it was already out of date.
And certainly something like this, I can see on the website, on our school website, district website, that if someone is really, really good at computers, when you put the ad on, then I can see that ad just like going out and encompassing the whole page, if you're really good. So you have to have some restrictions no matter what it is.
I think we could have limitations on it with a policy, whereas if we didn't have a policy, it would be kind of up to the principal of the school to figure out. This just gives us uniform and
Well, this should add consistency throughout the system with all the schools. Charging the same thing as far as space, are we looking at that type of thing? So that there's consistency in how we
It
handle
probably depends on the
ads?
vendor and the school and what they're leaning towards. We haven't had a lot of requests from vendors by our schools to get on their website. Some of them, we've seen a couple where they can buy shirts or something like that, and they tie that into the school. I don't know that there'll be a set fee until we meet with the principals, like if you get this little block, it's this many dollars, or if you get a rolling ad and those kind of things. So what we were trying to do is get a policy in place and then go meet with the principals and ask them what kind of needs that they had, or what kind of requests that they had.
But even like now, if you wanted to put an advertising out in the field, each school's gonna charge something different.
On their athletics, correct.
And that would still fall under this policy. So there's autonomy for each school, which was, I believe, some of the conversation that we had is to give some of the schools some of that autonomy while still maintaining some overall district control.
But the principals that you've talked to, they feel they need to have a policy to help support them.
well, I mean, the ones at the policy and forms committee.
Okay.
I think so, and on the issue of parking that we discussed 100 times, parents get really upset if there's 3 different rules at 3 different high schools on parking, so the people coming together and discussing and establishing sort of a uniform policy makes everyone feel better about it. Unless it's something really very odd that you have to change it. But I personally, in terms of advertising, don't like it at all on a school website. To me, education is education, that we shouldn't be advertising Coca-Cola. I love the Coca-Cola, I love Coca-Cola, but I don't want to advertise on the school side. I want it our mission is not to promote products. Our mission is education, and that's how I feel about the whole issue.
I think one of the problems that the district faces is that although if you want to put something in place that says there's absolutely no advertising, period, go take down all the signs that when people donate money, to whatever baseball, football, athletic event, they cannot hang a banner, you're going to need to take down everything and make it a strict closed forum, and I don't see that happening. I mean, obviously that's something you can do. So then you have some type of advertising, and there has always been that type of advertising, but you lack conformity and making sure that each school site follows a set of rules on how they're going to operate and what they're going to do, which also leads to, where maybe one principal will allow a certain place to put up an ad there or to donate or do whatever, and another principal won't. So you have where you're having disparaging treatment across, different venues, and at least with the policy, you have the right to enforce it and the right to take those ads down and to govern it yourselves. Right now, you don't have a policy in place to really have any authority. Well, you have authority as the board, but you can always tell the principal, but this will make it more uniform and allow you to operate it better as a school district. And my advice would be to have an advertising, even if it's not this, advertising is like technology, it's not gonna go away. So you need to put a handle on it the best you can, and if this doesn't work, we can always tweak it. But, in my legal opinion, you need something to be able to manage what is already occurring and what's gonna always occur.
We've got a large number of entities that are going onto our schools, onto the fronts of the property, bless you, and putting signs, whether it be promoting their business, their athletics program, their house of worship, whatever the case may be, and it's going on school property. The other thing you have is you have then political advertisements, and we had an issue with that, where that was distributed on the property. There was no recourse legally we had, because there was no policy in place. So it concerns me that we need to ensure that we have a policy, and I definitely think it needs to be something that we continually monitor. But we've been dealing with this, I believe, since almost a year with this policy, because we delayed it in December. And, to me now it's June. I know it was on your desk for a long time before that. So my concern is we are coming close to another issue where something's going to happen and we won't have a policy to address it. At this point too, if a principal, Mr. Bradshaw, wanted to allow something short of a superintendent directing otherwise, does not a principal have a certain amount of autonomy by statute to, unless we have a policy that would state otherwise?
They have the ability to govern their own, to govern the school, and I think that's why you make them a principal, is because you trust them to operate their facilities. Obviously they still have to follow any other policy that we have and the code of ethics and law and stuff, but there's really nothing out there that says, this is what you can do and this is what you cannot do.
And that's really what I mean. Right now, it allows administrators to even be in a position of saying, well, of course you can do this. Advertisers can come in and say, well, there's nothing that says you can't do this. So this gives us, I think, some protection. Anybody else? If there's no questions, then I need a motion.
I'll make a motion. We accept policy 9.40, advertisers permitted to advertise as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Dodd, a second by Ms. Bryant, to approve the adoption of new policy 9.40, advertisers permitted to advertise. Any more questions?
So the dollars and how they're collected and how they're distributed, if one high school chooses not to have any advertising on their website,
We would be okay with that.
we're fine. So we're not looking for uniformity in that respect. You're still letting the administrators have some flexibility with that. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 with Ms. Powers dissenting.
Thank you.
And with that, I will close the public hearing. And we can just look at each other for a minute and a half. Oh, I'm going to reopen the regular meeting. Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. And in less than 2 minutes, we'll go ahead and allow for public input, and then we should be able to close unless there's anything else anybody wants to talk about. My favorite ice cream is chocolate chip cookie dough and moose tracks. As you can see, I've been eating too much lately. Mr. Dodd, we're glad you made it back safe, and Ms. Balfour on your trips, and
are you
I gotta
leaving,
look.
Thomas?
I leave the 1st of July.
All right.
How about you? You leave shortly
27th
before.
of June.
We're gonna eat some salmon while we're out,
And some halibut.
and some halibut, just for the halibut.
Halibut's good.
You gotta have the salmon cooked just right.
If you go to a salmon bake in Anchorage.
Oh, yeah.
I like a strong fish.
It is 5:45. Is there anyone wishing to come forward? You would need to fill out a green card. Do we have any green cards?
Dr. Gavitt?
With that, we have no green cards. We have come to the end of our agenda. If there's no objections, we'll adjourn. We're adjourned.